Everybody, what's up? Wow, look at this video, this old video. It's like 4 years old, almost 5 years old now, I think. And look at that camera quality. Anyway, you guys asked for a repeat of this one, the pinching zinnias and taking cuttings. And look at that flower bed. Looks like I didn't pull weeds back then either. Surprisingly, I think I've started doing a better job. Anyway, basically, pinching our zinnias is essential to getting a bushier, healthier plant. But we can also use those pinchings to, propagate our plants by cuttings. In this video, I just put them in a bottle and used like kind of the winter sowing method to propagate them. But mainly that was because this took place in the spring. If I were to do this in the summer like I'm doing it now, that definitely would not be a good idea because it would get way too hot. So this video is more about taking these cuttings of our zinnia plants in early summer for our best chance of success. So maybe we can get another kind of succession planting of our zinnias, but not start them from seed. In general, I seldom take zinnia cuttings anymore. It just seems like it's so much easier to start the plants from seed. You can direct sow them. Of course, you can transplant them. The seeds are relatively inexpensive, and they're such a fast cut flower crop to produce. I mean, you can get zinnia plants blooming in as little as 8 weeks from the time that you sowed them from seed. So there's not really a lot of need for propagating them by cuttings, but there are a couple of options if you choose to do so. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take find my plants that I want. These plants that I'm using are already pretty big, and I am just going to take my first cutting. The way that I'm going to do this in this video is I am going to put these in a vase of water. So I want those stems to be nice and long. So when I go to my zinnia bed, all I'm going to do is find some plants. I'm going to make sure these plants have not budded up yet. You don't want any buds. And I'm going to take my garden snips, and I am just going to make a snip right below a leaf node. That little point will still be sticking up. You want to chop that back too on your plant, just, to make sure nothing's going to rot or anything. And plus, having little sticks sticking up isn't a good look for the garden. After I have those cuttings, I am just going to remove those bottom leaves, and I'm going to remove any leaves that are going to be submerged in water. Anytime you put any kind of flowers in a vase, you don't want any foliage to be submerged in water. That's just, lots of bacteria and stuff that can impede our success or keep us from having successful cuttings. After I've done that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips once again and remove some of that excess foliage from the top of these cuttings. The main reason I'm doing that is as we are growing roots, that stem is going to have to support this plant until there are some roots developing. So the less foliage, the better. You can see that as I do this, I am making certain not to damage that growth tip. There's that growth point down in there between these two bigger leaves. I'm not damaging that because obviously that's where our plant's going to continue growing, so we don't want to do that. Next, all I'm going to do is get a jar of clean water, and I'm just going to put them in. Ideally, I am going to take this into my house and just put it into a kind of cool, sunny windowsill. The reason I like this method the most for summer propagation is because, as I've already mentioned in my previous videos, here in the summer, it gets extremely hot. And propagation can be difficult for certain, varieties. Zinnias definitely seem to be one of those varieties that can be a little harder to propagate just because it's already so hot in the summer. And we're trying to, kind of fight against the elements to make sure they have enough potential for root growth. To start these in soil, I'm just going to take some more cuttings. You can see these are quite a bit shorter. I'm going to remove any stem growth underneath of that leaf node, and I'm going to remove the leaves just like I did the first time. These are a lot smaller just because these are going to go into soil. I mean, it can vary, just you can experiment and play with it a little bit, but I generally like for them to be a lot smaller. I am going to remove that excess foliage on the top just to make it a little easier on the plant. In terms of rooting hormone and things like that, I honestly don't know if you need any. I've never used any, and I've had pretty good results. Zinnia's cuttings aren't as reliable, it seems, as a lot of other cuttings, but it also has to do with just the time of the year that you're doing this. As you can see, I'm just going to put those into some moist potting mix, And they should take about 2 to 3 weeks to start rooting. I don't have any of the finished product here. I'm sorry. This was kind of a last minute video request, and I just wanted to go ahead and get it out there for you guys before it was too late in the season to even, you know, think about taking the cuttings. Make sure, I like to put these in a shaded location that still receives rain, a little bit of early morning sun, especially in the summer. It can be brutal. So it's best if you're doing this kind of late spring, early summer. Make sure it receives adequate moisture. Really want to focus on keeping it consistently moist, but you know, not waterlogged or anything, because these zinnias do have kind of the tendency to start rotting. The stems can start rotting if conditions aren't exactly ideal. Hopefully that this was helpful. I'm not quite sure if it was. If you want to see the results of this, I am doing this right now, so hopefully I will be able to post about it on my blog, or maybe there will be an update in one of the later zinnia videos. Maybe I'll make that part of our growing zinnia video when we update it. Who knows? But I have had a lot of success with this in the past. In general, I make sure that I don't post about anything on this channel that I haven't already done or had, you know, experience with. That's one of my kind of policies. I know a lot of people just post about whatever, but I want to make sure that I'm not just, you know, making stuff up over here. If you have any experience with this, be sure to let me know down in the comments. I would absolutely love to hear all about it. I always appreciate you guys so much when you leave comments about your own gardening experience, because I learned so much just from reading the comments that you guys leave down in the channel. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. I would absolutely love to have you. We're just growing our little gardening community here. We do, you know, growing vegetables, growing cut flowers, mainly some DIY projects. You really never know what I'm going to post, so if you like a little bit of surprise, you might like it too. Be sure to share it with a friend, share it with a garden-loving friend. Everybody's welcome. As always, the links to my stuff is down in the description below. There is a link to the blog where you can find more information and more pictures about everything that I post here on the YouTube channel. You can also find our wax melt shop that helps support the channel. If you like home fragrance or something like that, we've got you covered for that. Also, we are on Patreon. Patreon helps kind of support our blog and pay for kind of video editing software and all kinds of just random odds and ends stuff that I need to keep the videos coming to you guys. So I am always so incredibly appreciative to anybody who checks that out. Overall, I hope that you are having such an incredible day. I will talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.